President Trump's warning to Russia about a Ukraine ceasefire within 10 to 12 days is very bold. How might this impact global diplomatic stability and US relations with Europe, because most of the European countries are NATO members?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Trump is, for him, is business as usual, meaning that's how he does what he does, even in a geopolitical environment. Now, you said it right, it's a bold move, but then it's a risky move as well. While it's good for America to assert its power, but at the same time, one has to be mindful how allies look at it. Isn't that the question? Because how do Europe relate to it? Now, some countries in Europe, whether it's Baltics, Poland, who are with the strong lines, they may be more excited, but the Western Europeans, the Frances, the Germanys, who love multilateral approach, they might look at it, wait, we were trying to do things diplomatically as well, both lines. Of course, one has to be strong, but also through discussions, this is disrupted. And that's why I would say this question comes, what if Putin doesn't even care? Is there an action plan? But did Donald Trump talk with the allies, the NATO members? If not, and if Russia doesn't care, where do we stand? Now, I have to give some references. If you go back to Ronald Reagan's time, for example, back in 1987, Ronald Reagan actually gave a big warning on tear down the wall, the Berlin Wall. But then what he did, even not months, even for years, he built the case with the allies so that everybody knew. And he kept the channels also open, the other side. Then the ultimatum came. But in Trump's case, ultimatum can become very hollow or shallow. And the last example, I must say, it comes from JFK. I'll take you both to 1962, where, of course, JFK and the Cuban Missile Crisis. Similar stories, I must admit, as those who are historians, they would testify, that he did the same. He did give the ultimatum, but before that, all allies briefed, all scenarios planned. When these both work, then this is really good as an ultimatum. That worries me. This can be a hollow ultimatum unless there's a good communication with the Europeans.
But Mr. Kaji, you said one thing which is I find very interesting, that this bold move by Donald Trump is very risky too.
Yes.
This is the things going on outside the United States. We'll have to look at the Middle East and Israel-Gaza issue.
Yes.
Israel has initiated daily 10-hour pauses in military operations across parts of Gaza to allow humanitarian aid in, though the United Nations warns the situation remains make or break amid rising famine. I want to draw the attention of Mr. Kaji. Despite Israel's declaration 10 hours daily tactical pause in Gaza, famine and civilian deaths continue. Is this a genuine humanitarian gesture or a geopolitical calculation to prepare themselves to attack again on the civilian people?
Mr. Rashid, your question also has an answer, but of course, let's go a little deeper. Now, how optics work in geopolitical scenario. Taking certain approaches may appear humanitarian, and yet if you look at the ground realities, what's happening? There is continued famine, rising civilian casualties, and even, more than I do, huge collapse of the health system. So if you ask me what this 10-hour pause is actually doing, that's a relevant question. Now, of course, Netanyahu, Israel wants to show that look at us, we have paused. But aid agencies, including United Nations, they would claim that their access is still dangerously limited and that conditions of the ground make it pause nearly unworkable. So this pause is just an optic, as we say, just to create an impression of access for food, but not the real one. Now, from a geopolitical standpoint, I would say, there's a lot of pressure, especially from Western Europe, that look, enough is enough. But they're saying, now look, we have a pause. So they're creating some breathing space, maybe to get more organized. But at the same time, I would say, we must ask, is this helping people or helping Israel's politics? Now, I love to give references, as you have seen. There is this siege of Aleppo back in 2016 when Assad, did similar stuff. Both even Russia and Assad said, yeah, there is a humanitarian corridor, but in reality, similar situation was there too. In politics, something happens again and again, and in a talk show like this, Shamsul Bhai, we discuss and we educate the audience that history repeats itself, Rashad. So that's my take.
Ukraine cyber attacks on Russian infrastructure mark a new phase of hybrid warfare. Are we witnessing a shift from battlefield to digital confrontation?
What a fascinating question. Well, yes and no. Yes, it has now broadened to beyond land, sea and air. Not just shift, because now it's broadened. So of course the land, sea and all those are there, but now it's going into hybrid mode, as you said. So let's see what's happening in Russia. You talked about the airlines, but also Russia's railways, energy grids, and communication systems are also affected. What's interesting about these cyber attacks? This is what we call is deniable. No, we have nothing to. There's no evidence, exact evidence who did it. So it's so much easier, and also so much disruptive if you think about it. In the population, Shamsul,
Yes.
What's coming next? In traditional warfare, it's much easier, if not predictable, at least we know how it is played out. It has thousands of years of history behind it. But the cyber warfare and its new approaches and mechanism is creating havoc, not only actual physically, but also psychologically. So that's why it's a very dangerous precedent. Why? I tell you more. It's not limited to that. You know why? Because suddenly the ethical aspects of war or other boundaries of war going beyond. What if the same cyber techniques can go beyond and affect others who are not the warring parties? It happens.
Mm-hmm.
A cyber attack and the viruses, or they don't know borders, obviously. Mm-hmm. So that is an additional worry for me. Now this is why this shift from battlefield to digital we are seeing is seamless, multi-domain, and that's why there's a real concern. And examples will be more and more in future. But one of the earliest attacks, by the way, was in 2007. Some of us would remember, Estonia actually got crippled.
Yes.
And again, nobody can tell for sure, but there's a Russian origin. But see, unknowable, but generally where it is coming from. So that's why Russia, the implications are huge, and it goes beyond just between these two countries.
And yes, sir, Russia has the history that they tried to manipulate American election in 2016.
Oh, better
and
example.
indirectly acknowledged that they have tried to let Donald Trump win against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton owned 3 million popular votes.
Popular vote.
If Russia joins the NATO, the entire problem is over.
You know, sometimes in business we say think out of the box. So everyone is traditionally in a box. That's the unfortunate thing. If people are serious about peace in the world, you know, a dramatic move like that could solve the issue. But would even Russia join? Because it doesn't help Putin and his hegemony. So that's another side of the equation. Even if somebody comes up with an idea, I wonder, because that would be like going under the, you know, power politics of the US.